Hey, this is Sabrina Monarch. I'm going to be going into a deeper look on moving on, getting over, in regards to exes and lovers. This is an enormously deep topic to approach for a variety of reasons. And I want to give it that respect and depth of treatment, because when you're in the depths of romantic heartache or romantic pain, the last thing you want is trite advice, right? About just, get out there, like eat ice cream for a week and then, get yourself back out there, kid. Like it's just so dumb. It doesn't hit, right? And I've been realizing in my life recently, I saw the part of me that hides how deep my experience is. Like the absolute depth and vastness of my experience on a daily basis, the ability that I have for peak experience and trance and ecstasy, how deeply moved, pierced I am by life and by the experiences that I have, the experiences that I create, the experiences that I come by. And in regards to this topic, it's like, wow, I'm really gonna get on here and just go for it. Um, because when I talk about moving on or getting over things from the past, this has been something that has worked me a number of times in my life. And so I realized with a striking clarity, like I have a lot of wisdom, medicine about this topic. Um, so it's time to crystallize it into an offering or something to share more concretely. So I announced to Instagram yesterday that I'd be sharing some teachings on moving on from past lovers and exes. And I'm going to be doing this from a variety of angles. There's some astrological things, like very niche specific astrological things, but more so this is coming from like a trauma healing and erotic cultivation perspective. And I wanted to just begin here with an overview and really get into it. So, specifically, these teachings are going to be about romantic and sexual figures, not about other loved ones. This distinction is important because the romantic or sexual thread of life is going to tap into an entire different set of projections and needs, wishes, desires. It's a whole, field in our consciousness that is a distinct type of love. So that's what I'm focusing on. I just remember to say that if you're new to this channel, please subscribe. Normally, I share like astrology forecasts, but today this is what I'm doing. Um, I am introducing some new things into my work in terms of trauma healing and um, like erotic types of offerings. Like I'm in a sexuality and intimacy coaching training at the moment. Um, so in the meantime, I'm kind of sharing astrology and things about EFT and all of that. And that's where we are. So ideally, and I can speak for myself here, right? Like this desire to be really present, to be enjoying my life in the season that I'm in, which, by the way, the seasons of life that we're in are not always the best. Like I'm an Aries sun, and I think I'm quite possibly just competitive with myself of wanting to have the best experience after the best experience. And I have that kind of lust for life, of wanting to reach new heights all the time and reach new depths all the time. And that has caused me to learn some things that really weave into what I'm sharing. But on the other side of that, the shadow side of that is really being haunted by your past heights, right? So when it comes to not being able to get over a person, it's because there's something about the experience you had with them, or something about what you've projected onto them, or something that is legitimately special about them that you're having a hard time letting go because it taps into a fear inside that you're never going to feel that way again. You're never going to have that again, which is a inner child type of wounding or material. And so this experience of being, hung up on an experience or a person that is in your past, right? It's in your past because of some, you're not going back, it's not an option, or you're just using self control, where you're like, that relationship is, a toxic trauma bond for me. And wow, is the sex amazing, as they can be when you're in the trauma bond situation, but I'm not doing it, right? If your body hasn't also upgraded in terms of not being turned on anymore by that situation, and you're just in the discipline and willpower and whatnot, it's a really difficult space to be in. Um, for whatever, or it could be that it was actually just like a sweet relationship. It was not unhealthy per se. Um, but there was something about the depth of the love and the connection that you still pine for and think about, and maybe compare all the new people that you're meeting, if you're even meeting a lot of new people, to that person from your past. To me, this is a special kind of hell. It is one of my least favorite experiences to be having in this life, because I love alternately to be uh, in love with the moment that I'm in. That is something that I strive for in a sense. So, with some level of neutrality around that, we can admit and know that not every moment, not every season of our life is the best, right? Like, we do have to learn how to relate and be our own friends and be with what is. And that actually creates the space for those flashes of peak experience, which happen, they come and go. Anyway, all this is to say that this transmission is really for looking at what is happening when you find part of your erotic life force energy invested in something that has gone, that is no longer, and that there's a fear that it will never be that great again. Um, Maybe that's the dialogue. Maybe it's also just a sense of not being able to stop thinking about someone, not being able to stop ruminating on what you could have done better, how you could have prevented the disaster from happening, the type of closure that you want, the things you want to say, the things you wish they'd say to you, like all of these kind of being haunted by the experience, and haunted by the loss. So, if you're following me, at any point, leave a comment. Let me know what resonates with you, like this video, subscribe, all that stuff. I find that the language of moving on or getting over things is almost kind of brute. Like this experience of being that impacted, that's sad, right? And like, oh, just get over it, move on. Like I think that is part of the struggle and the resistance actually, is that something isn't being felt all the way through. And it's like, just carry on, soldier. Like, you live and you learn, try again. And some part of us, if we have this type of complex or pattern, doesn't want to move on, doesn't know how, right? If we would, we could. So let's just acknowledge that if you're having trouble moving on from something, it's because the experience has not been fully digested, right? Something impactful did happen, right? Toughening up and acting like it didn't happen or didn't matter isn't going to help the situation. Sometimes that voice is fun to kind of like create, like, I don't give a fuck, I don't care, like to bring in this kind of like attitude and like sass and whatnot. But it's not the full truth. It just puts a little pep in your step. Um, Even if nothing even happened, if it was just an attraction or a new connection or a crush, because I had this happen starting from when I was a kid, when I had crushes and the crush didn't work out, the level of devastation I would feel after. It didn't matter that nothing happened. And in fact, the fact that nothing happened made the whole thing all the more shameful and embarrassing and intense. Right. And I can have compassion for myself now at this point within that. Um, but that's why I'm naming it, right? It's like there's already like a rupture in the relationship with self that this pattern is completely based in, that I'm going to be unpacking more and more as we go. So, at whatever stage the relationship, the attraction became, whatever actually happened, if the material was provocative enough psychologically to awaken unconscious aspects of ourselves, right, of our desire body. There's a plane overhead. One moment. So loud. If the material was provocative enough to awaken unconscious aspects of ourselves, something impactful happened. Like, really let that in. False starts or things that never were carry different projected material than relationships that had a full play out. Not having closure, right? And if we're rooting this in you, your experience. So if you didn't have closure, maybe the other person had closure, but if you don't have closure, it didn't end on your terms, it didn't end mutually, that can be very disorienting. Right. In my experience, relationships that have a full play out are very healing because um, especially relationships that end mutually and both parties, it's like, well, that was successful. Love you. Like, you know, onwards, like that has such a different feeling tone than the rupture that never gets repaired. Um, Special, unique, out of the ordinary experiences in connection that end suddenly or in a disillusioning way have sent me reeling in my life a number of times, which is why I know this pattern um, and have found so much medicine around it. So if you're watching, notice if you have peak experiences or people from your past that you still, they have a lot of charge for you. Um, either you can't stop thinking about them or you've, tried to avoid, you've like blocked them or made it hard to see them on social media. But if they happen to pop up on your feed in some way, or, um, if you ran into them or something reminded you of them, that it would like, that you've tried to defend yourself from that and you haven't um, found neutrality with them. Or that you have someone from your past that like set a standard in terms of like the sex was really amazing or the level of chemistry or aliveness that you felt with them um, in this way that then when you are engaging other people, it's like, well, nothing compares, or I'm still comparing. I'm still thinking about this other person and I'm not there present. So that whole experience, by the way, it's like we actually, everyone that you've been with, had a significant connection to, um, you carry that history into your connections. And that's not like this awful, terrible thing. It is a burden, if you will, that shows up in partnerships is that you have that person, but you also have their romantic history and their trauma history and all of that. And so that there's a degree to that that's like normal. Um, but something that that I'm suggesting, how would I word this as like the aspiration or something to think about is how can like the heart and our erotic nature be clarified so that it's available for the present moment and for present connection? Not just present connection, but also present connection that matches what we truly need and desire, what our real standards are, right? Like what we need to thrive, such that we're not burdened by memories of past people. And this is something that I have been successful at. Anytime I've been hung up about a person, I've figured out how to rearrange my heart and not have that person be present in my daily life or not have that person be haunting me in my next, encounters and whatnot. And there's something very, I'm going to pause for the plane. There's something very death and life honoring about this process where it's like going through that death process of leaving that connection and the ways that it impacted you, right? Like processing that material and then making way for a new life, a new present moment, new connection again, so that you're not carrying more projection onto your next person or your next life experiences than you really need to be. So, when I say moving on or getting over a person, language that I think is quite trite for what's actually happening, it has a lot more to do with becoming erotically present and available to life again. And that's not the language that is like, on a magazine cover, how to get over your ex or whatever. So, some distinctions here. One, like ideally or healthily, we are forming consensual mutual relationship agreements with people. We like who likes us. We love who loves us. We love who respects us. We love who cares for us. Right. And there's a skill set of learning how to even read those cues of what actually symbolizes care, right? As opposed to just charm or chemistry or things like that. Sometimes we're the one rejecting others, right? We don't just love everyone who loves us, but I'm not speaking to that here. I'm speaking where our desire is present. So again, this is the ideal kind of like template here, where other people's unavailability or disinterest or incapacity to love is a turnoff, right? And it can be disappointing for sure. If someone doesn't want to connect with us or their behavior and capacity doesn't match our standards and needs, we might be able, we're able to digest that reality even though it hurts. We're able to stay in touch with our own center and let the person go and move toward actual fulfillment or connection that we're looking for. There's a level of simplicity here. Again, there's a plane. There's so many. So there's a level of simplicity to this. These are facts, not dramas, right? Like the connection has foundations. Um, there's a sense of safety emotionally. There's a mutuality. We've built trust. Great. This isn't the case, then I'm able to de-invest and let go in a pretty simple way. And when those disappointments happen, when that learning happens, there can be a sting, but it passes and there's resource to move forward in new ways. Right? So that's kind of like the opposite of getting hung up. It's like maybe there's a failure or a disappointment. It's not, repairable. It's just a clear, like, this isn't a match. And I'm not going to dwell about this person ad infinitum. On the other hand, right, here having this challenge moving on, continuing to attach desire, intention, wishes, rumination, or need for shared closure, right? Shared closure as in, like, I need them to understand how much they hurt me. I need them to apologize. I need us to have a reunion. And even if that's not like your main personality, but it's a part of you that's like on loop, like having that desire, um, when that is all being attached, the memories and whatnot, onto a party that is not participating or cannot participate in it because they've opted out, right? Or because we have used willpower and self control to be like, that relationship is no good for me. It's an unhealthy dynamic, but I can't stop thinking about them. So, whatever the situation, this attachment, right? Our will to attach, by the way, like just attachment in general, but also desire, um, fantasies, any of that. This all becomes a leak of energy. And rather than with the simplicity of addressing the reality, right? Of like, oh, this isn't a match. Now I know, right? And you can think about other areas in your life where you get the feedback that something is a no, and you're like, okay, whatever. And you like don't think about it. You don't remember it the next day and the next day and the next day. Like you just move on with your life. Um, this is not what's happening here, right? Where it's like, instead of being simple, it becomes complex. It forms loops, obsessions, shame and addiction cycles. And a lot of this is compulsive. Maybe some part of us is choosing it, but our conscious self may feel ashamed or judgmental or afflicted by this haunting. And on the mythos of haunting, I'll come back to this in another teaching. And so these patterns often resonate with some unresolved childhood pain around neglect, which is really difficult because part of this kind of the trauma bond or the kind of the attachment onto the other is like some part of us is like, oh, cool, I'm going to get to resolve this pain with this person. Or like, oh, this person sees me. Like this person's like willing to play with me in this place that I feel really scarce. Or, I haven't really been engaged in this way and this feels really good. So that's really difficult. Like that's actually really devastating to be with. Um, so even though a lot of this is hard to talk about, and it's kind of like the opposite of, you know, like it's kind of like an aesthetic, like playing it cool or being like nonchalant or something. Like it has this almost air of like signifying some kind of value, depending on who is like into that, because it's not everyone's aesthetic and whatnot. But I think it's a reaction in some sense. It's very opposite energy to actually really caring so deep that you're obsessing about something. And, if you have that going on, it can be really challenging to even connect with the person in front of you because you feel the loaded projection material of like, you're a free person and do what you do what you must, but I'm here like a volcano having such deep feelings and I don't even, I can't expect you to hold that. Like you're just awakening this well of feeling inside of me kind of thing. And that's disorienting too. So, yeah, I just want to pause here and like really emphasize that I'm not pointing out these patterns to like shame it. There already is shame around the pattern. And within it, there's also a extremely vibrant essence of like radical creativity and play and innocence, and essentially like the gifts of the inner child on the other side of that inner child like wounding that's showing up. And so if we have this kind of rupture within in terms of love feeling scarce and attaching easily onto something or someone and the shame and whatnot that goes along with that. There's so so much better ahead to be like tended to and retrieved within that, because that depth of love, right, when it's in that kind of like pressurized fearful state where things are scarce, that's so painful. And when that aspect of the self gains the safety to really open and like unfurl and blossom, like that's amazing, right? That is turning toward life, not in the next person who saves us from this pattern or something like that. It's turning to the life within of like your inner child, or like something precious about your essence that needs more space to live and be. So I hope that's clear. So the main difference between these two scenarios, the simple moving on, just casual, it's not a big deal, versus the complex struggle to move on, is the centeredness in self, right? I don't, not self-centeredness, but centeredness in self, and the availability for connection, that we're going to find in that simple one, where it's like, I'm not, dwelling about these tragic encounters. I am just living my life and available for what's good for me, you know? So, what heals the haunted or obsessive loss pattern is not just time. It's not getting distracted doing other things, as much as it's valid to like have other things going on in your life and be creative, be in service, do things that are creating value in your world, even if you don't have everything figured out perfectly, because the reality is, as long as we're alive, we all have problems and we're all working through stuff. So we do not have to obsess about our problems and try to fix them immediately, because sometimes we don't know how to yet, or we haven't gotten the resource yet. So that ability to be distracted from our biggest problems has a functional quality to it. And when we develop the capacity and resource to unpack and examine these things, we can really quantum leap our lives. This is also not about finding a replacement person or a perfect person, right? That approach or fantasy is often a continuation of the conflict, because it's still locating the answer out there. Now, it's also valid to say that we grew up in a developmental context and that we are biological creatures that form tribe and community. So, um, healing these patterns also is a process of forming nurturing, like nourishing relationships, that create more and more of that embodied foundation and safety to be living your life. But in terms of, trying to just find the person, the other, that rescues us from this kind of haunt, we can likely attract the same pattern in new faces or continue to be unavailable for connection due to rumination on the past person. So we want a deeper transformation than just, getting over someone and then finding the next best replacement. That's not that's not the thing, right? So a deeper change actually within. And so where that deeper change happens is actually when we bring more centeredness to our experience. We're not like looking out, like searching, seeking, but there's some deeper self-awareness that we gather, deeper connection to parts of ourselves that we have not connected with yet. So, healing the obsessive haunted loss pattern is a combination of one, creating emotional safety, feeling emotional safety, feeling the layers of grief down to the roots that underpin it, so that this stuck pain can move and does not have to magnetize or be attracted to new or current sources of grief. You can gain skills to do that by yourself, of course, but a lot of this also happens in community or co-regulation or, from connecting with people that have Skillshare in that way. Um, my own experiences have been that of like connecting with people that opened my eyes to what was possible in terms of like self-acceptance and forgiveness and emotional safety. And then from connecting with them, importing that type of skill set into myself in a lasting way. That's actually the gift of healthy, positive relationships, like the relationships that go well, that add to your life. Even if there's like ups and downs or ruptures that you can work through, like that the overall relationship is expanding and adding to your life. And yeah, your world opens because of the connection. And these can be friends, they can be professional connections, they can be any kind of relationship that you have where there's an additive quality to it, as opposed to the trauma bond kind of connection, which although it shows you things or is like a shadow mirror, those relationships have kind of an expensiveness to it or a cost or an impact, or there's something to heal from after. Um, but back to the point, right? Healing, like creating more emotional safety for your own experience. One um, one thing that really helped me to learn, pausing for the plane again, to take a drink of water. One thing that helped me to learn is that inside of the falling in love experience, I love that version of me. She's the best. She's like, yeah, just making friends everywhere. Like, even though she's already in love, she keeps getting asked out by other people, but she's like, already too fulfilled and not interested. She's creative. Planes again, sorry. She has an appetite. Like, she's fun. I love being her. And then on the other hand, after an experience of heartbreak, the, I just went into like a visualization journey one time with it of like, who's this part of me that is ruminating and heartbroken? And the shadow version of me that I saw, it was like, oh, damn, like that is a fall, like that is a far way for me to fall. Not just the circumstance of like, oh, everything was going this way and I thought I met my person and it was going to be super fun. And yeah, my life was on the up and up and now it's suddenly crashed and I'm kind of shocked at like my naivete and now I'm depressed. Like, and that sense of crashing. It's like when I just looked at it within and saw, oh, there's a part of me that's grumpy and resentful and holds grudges and is not fun. Like, really not, And being like, that's actually just a far way to fall for me. And as long as I don't accept that part of myself that's just like hanging out of the basement in the shadow, like pissed and resentful and stuff, if I don't get to know her, then of course I'm going to be terrified of the experience of being sent to that depth, right? So a lot of our emotions, anything we're feeling, we have a lot of like we're designed to protect ourselves from pain and certain emotions, but it liberates us to feel them and to cultivate emotional and psychological safety to feel. So for me, my favorite tool really lately for that is emotional freedom technique and EFT. Because it is a somatic trauma healing technique. You speak through your issues and you are supported in creating more safety inside of the feelings that you're having, whether you're repressing or letting them actually move and be. Once the emotion actually gets to complete its process and move, we get the gifts of it instead of being stuck in some kind of frozen response. The other thing, so speaking here of what heals the obsessive and haunted loss pattern, is creating updates. Updates to oneself, right? So, um, this is a very important concept where inside of, relationships that you've had in the past or who you were at a certain workplace or a certain season of your life, you had a self-concept. And then time went on and circumstances changed and your self-concept has to update. And usually the times in our lives that are the most erotic peak experiences are moments where our awareness and our turn on intersect, like consciousness and eroticism intersect. And we're just fully there in some way. And so if we're dragging around an outdated self concept into lovership, into partnership, into our pursuit of happiness, there's a incoherence, and that doesn't make our experience as potent in the way that we would want it to be. So creating updates to oneself through new experiences that foster presence, self-acceptance, and awareness of sensation. Somatic journeys and erotic practices that are about the actual physical sensations in the body help with rooting into the self. So these are things like, for a while, I've studied with other people and been guided into journeys and somatic practices. Now I'm creating them and in the space of offering them more. But it's basically the skill set of being able to enter into play states through your body, right? And what is eroticism and sex, but it's like a form of play. And this, there's a lot of emotion inside of it also, or a lot of meaning inside of it. But being able to create those kind of new direct experiences in the body goes a really long way. Just paused for like 3 minutes of planes. But both of these things that I list as healing this pattern, so creating emotional safety for the entire texture of your experience emotionally, right? So, yeah, creating more radical acceptance and care around the grief, shame, pain, longing. And then also creating somatic and erotic self updates. These things require intention and effort. Right. And so it could be, instead of going to something to numb, watching TV or something, an addiction or some kind of soothing pattern, to um, go go outside and do some kind of intuitive movement practice. I really like body focusing also. But doing something, or translating how you're feeling into a drawing, especially if you're not good at drawing or something like that. Like just doing something that connects to a kind of right-brained, playful, creative part of you that's not about like creating something that's for consumption or for advancing your life in some particular way, but just like you feeling yourself. It could be just taking 5 minutes to tap in and tune in and feel what's happening in your body. Like these are just some simple examples. But, going into places where you're having a present experience with your soma. Yeah, and that can get deeper and kind of more mystical or more of a journey or more of a trance if you're going on a full-on like somatic deep body kind of journey. These things are intentionality that's invested in yourself and your availability for life, right? Moving through your process. That begins to create more momentum in a positive direction. and decreases the vortex of the energy leak and obsession, as well as sometimes our compensation for the obsession. Like if we just become like a workaholic and try to achieve, to avoid feeling certain things or, whatever else that we might do to compensate for the disempowering feelings, right? What helps us kind of soften and come home to ourselves. In effect, it's never so much about getting over the other person as much as it is about coming home to oneself, right? And this is kind of one of those things that it's like, yeah, we know, but like how? Or like, is it really that simple? Um, and it's like, no, actually, like if the way you loved was that deep and that piercing and that intense, even if it was mismatched, even if it wasn't the right person or the right situation, everything that you projected onto that other person or onto that moment of time, like you get to feel that level of depth in your own erotic body, in your own sensate body. And it's shocking sometimes the level of which we can still get to know ourselves or still cultivate relationship to ourselves, how much energy within we have that is just kind of behind locked doors or is like a do not go there or I don't want to be with that part of me. So self intimacy is really, really deep. And especially if you're someone that gets really focused on the other or lost in the other, it is immense immense a shock and a blessing to see how much life you actually have within yourself. And this begins to create more of your own energy field, your own source of creativity and connectivity, where there was an inner rupture that the other person only was a mirror of. So it wasn't about chasing them or getting them back or trying to figure out what you did to fuck up and punishing yourself forever for that. It's like a mirror back to yourself of like how deep your love within is, right? That was that kind of excitement and fascination and all of that is something that is yours also. The difficult, deep-seated grief that is also within us is something that we like to avoid sometimes through romance or chasing the other or the high, right? Or thinking that it will be something that we can avoid ever feeling if we're rescued by the person who just doesn't trigger that wound, right? Or who is so great in some other way that they save us from having to descend to that place. Right? Or another person might rescue us by giving us something that we never had before, that we needed. In the aftermath of a difficult ending, one that we really struggle to fully process, now all that early grief, that inner child grief, any kind of pre-verbal or early life grief, past life, ancestral grief, all of that then has a new face to attach to, which becomes a distraction and also an itch that can never be scratched because it's not about that person. It's just not. We might think that we are supposed to find the good life, get to a higher place, find the right relationship, make things better, right? In this like external seeking way. And if we're not addressing and spending time centering in ourself and meeting ourself in these deeper locations, we're going to find the same problems over and over again in this like external mirage. A lot of us might really enjoy falling in love, less so if you associate that with pain now. But few of us appreciate the part where we recover from its aftermath, right? The death doulaing. There's actually a lot of wealth in the process of grief and letting go once we learn how to lean in and develop the emotional safety to touch that material. Grief alchemically makes the way for life and love again. And in terms of becoming more freely available for love in the present moment, right? This is a practice that is tended to over and over again. And it doesn't have to be from tragic ruptures every single time. because those patterns can change, right, when we heal and address the deeper material, but it can be the subtle grief of, I don't have kids, but I hear what parents say about watching their kids grow up and like the little portals of grief inside of, those seasons changing. So it could be things related to aging. It could be related to just, the passing river of time and moments that we cherish coming to an end and changing and being able to erotically self update, erotically grieve through all of those changes. But this um, tending to our eroticism and tending to an erotic present moment lets us be available for life in a vibrant way. And this isn't just about our personal happiness. It's also, if you think about the ripple effects that we have in community and in the world in terms of the inspiration and love that we're able to share when we are here, right? And just what we are capable of when we are divested from addiction, right? And soothing and avoidance, and we are here, right? Able to be in service, able to create, able to play, able to love. So I'm going to leave it here in terms of the transmission part. Stay with me for a few things I want to share with you. I am going to be talking more about this pattern because I've literally I did go deep, but there's more. Check out my new website, sabrinamonarch.com. It is new. It has a new look, new photos. I'm very proud of it. Thank you, Daje, the story doula, for helping me both in the design and helping me really doulaing that whole process. The website includes descriptions of my services. Like if you want to book a reading with me, my books are open for one-off astrology readings. And what I'm really excited about offering are EFT sessions, so emotional freedom technique. I'm also available right now. Books are open for those sessions. If maybe something related to this transmission or something else that you want to work through, where you want to move stuck energy and have an emotional breakthrough, that's what those sessions are for. I have a new mini course on Pluto that is available on my website. I'll leave the link in the notes. And I'm also, I do long-term work, coaching work with people where it's a combination of astrology, Akashic and somatic journeying, EFT, like all these different kinds of modalities that I have as a resource to go into your process in a more granular, like present, process-oriented way. Readings can be very, bird's eye view, like big perspective. But what fascinates me about the chart is living it, right? It's a moment to moment process, and there's breakthroughs that we have along the way. So the way that I see charts isn't just about what they say and like kind of a one-off way, like even though that is a way to read charts and there is, beautiful kind of visions that you can get from that. But in terms of just navigating the portals and initiations of life and moving deeper into connection with what you really desire and what you're, wanting to have unfold in your life. I love coaching for that. So you can email me, sabrina@monarchastrology.com, if you'd like to inquire about that. I am taking on some new coaching clients at this time. Also on June 24th at 1 p.m. Pacific, I'll leave the link in the notes. I'm going to be guiding a sun meditation inspired by, I just go outside and talk to the sun and go on like trance embodiment journeys with the sunlight for fun and for heart healing. And I'm stunned. I'm amazed. It's like one of my favorite erotic practices. It gives me life. It feeds aliveness. But I'm doing this meditation inspired by the Cazimi, the Jupiter Sun conjunction in Cancer, and tuning into the sun as a source of nourishment. So this meditation will be a visualization live and recorded, you are encouraged to like go outside and actually be in the sunlight and to play with the energetic of the sunlight through this meditation where you'll be guided through visualization and somatic cues to connect with the sun. And this comes from, what I know about the sun astrologically and just experimenting with the sun as a body, as an actual body, has been, yeah, one of a really deep source of joy in my life. So in light of everything that I was just sharing in this whole transmission in terms of like self updates and whatnot, playing with the sun and learning how to journey with the sun is definitely an erotic resource. And yeah, if you didn't know already, when I say erotic, it is about aliveness. So it does have a sexual aspect to it, but being like alive, vibrant is also the erotic. And yeah, the sun is such a source of that. I'm going to leave it here and ask you to please leave a comment and let me know what you're taking away from this. And check out the links, sabrinamonarch.com now as an umbrella for everything. But I'd also love to work with you if you want support going deeper into any of this, or you have something else that you'd like to bring. We can start a conversation about it. All right. Love you. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with more thoughts on this, as well as astrology forecasts.